But let's take the drugs out of it. Let's just get to the alcohol. When going back to about November or December last year, so that would be what, 2023, before the arrest, before all of this. At this point in the timeline, I had stopped watching Nick's show daily. I was very disappointed in what I was seeing, but I would still tune in from time to time if it was a good panel of guests, or if there was a good topic, or if there was a really funny, like, just drinking stream where he was getting completely sloshed and outrageous things were happening. But around this time, November, December 2023, he talked about his friend Cecil. Cecil Says, who's, you've probably seen him if you've watched, like, is it Friday Night Tights or one of those? It's one of those panel shows, the big panel shows with like 20 people. And he's got like the glasses and the beanie. And Nick was talking about Cecil, and he said that my friend Cecil, he does dry January. Every year he just does no drinking for the entirety of January. So I'm going to do dry January. He said that, and that was like I said, November or December. And I was watching that stream when he said that. And that actually gave me hope. I was like, because Nick would always say, no matter what you say, you can never prove someone you're not an addict. Because if you say, like, I'm not an addict, they're going to say, well, of course, that's what an addict would say. If you say you're not going to drink, they'll say you're just drinking in secret, sort of thing. But when he said, and I was listening, he said, I'm not going to do any alcohol for January. I was like, you know what? Nick's wrong. Because if you do not do alcohol for an entire month, I'm convinced he's not an alcoholic. If it is that simple, just don't drink, then just don't drink. Right. So when I heard that, even though I was disappointed in the show at this point and I wasn't a regular viewer anymore, I heard that and it gave me hope. It gave me a lot of hope because I was like, you know what? Nick's going to do it. He's a man of his word. He's not going to drink for January. And then he's going to go back to having a few drinks on show and having it's all going to be fine. So imagine my disappointment. Imagine my disappointment when it's not dry January. It's no drinking on stream. No drinking on stream. Now, can you have a drink before stream and then go on stream? Of course, because that's not drinking on a stream. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call bargaining. Bargaining is one of the hallmarks of the addict. And the moment I heard that, well, it's like, well, actually, I didn't mean on all the time, just on stream. It was over. That was when I was like, all right, this is just fucking stupid. And then, a few months later, he was arrested. So there you go. Because who in good faith would hear the statement, my friend doesn't drink at all during January, so I'm going to do the same, and then backtrack and say, well, actually, it's no drinks on streams. Ridiculous. That's kind of when I think that's the first moment that I had a really big, like, curtains being pulled away from my eyes, and I was like, oh, well, shit. And then, of course, a few months later, the arrest, which was very disturbing as well. But that is just one of the calling cards of the addict, is the bargaining. And we can see here that Nick is trying to bargain his way through this again. Look, I just let me drink. Just let me drink. I can't 2 years, 3 years without alcohol. I'd rather die than face my family without a glass of whiskey in my hand. But he's still bargaining. Look, I'll talk about it being bad. Just let me keep doing it. Pathetic. Addict.
I'll change my entire YouTube personality to be the anti-drug guy. Nick says, I'm going to be the anti-drug guy on YouTube. You watch Nick Rekieta on YouTube, it's going to be a no doing drugs show. Drugs are bad, okay? I'm going to be the Mr. Mackey of YouTube and Rumble.
Mr. Mackey? I don't know who that is. You mean from South Park? Is he like any drugs? I don't know. Maybe, I think this is like a boomer reference, okay? Aaron Emotep with these boomer references that I don't understand, even though I'm 2 months older than this man, apparently. Janina, I should say, says, hi, Josh. What, no drunk Nick? No fun. Yeah, well, I don't think he's going to last 2 years, but we'll see. It is South Park?
Because I really need to drink. Now, why would they want you to go to schools and be online telling people not to abuse substances when the only reason you're doing it is so you can suck down a bottle of whiskey?
That's a good point.
I mean, when I heard that, I just went, people are like, do you think that's true? Do you think that's true? It's too retarded for somebody to just make up.
I mean, I kind of agree. Like, this is so stupid that, like, when I first heard about these rumors, so I got messaged on Discord and someone gave me a summary of the deal, and I was waking up. So I was still a bit groggy from sleep, not from booze, obviously. And I was like, "What? The state's asking him to become an anti-drug channel? That's stupid." And then he's like, "No, Nick offered that." I'm like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "There's no way this is real. There's no way." But again, it's just stupid enough to be from the mind of Nick Rekieta.
It's just really too dumb for someone to just
Fire Red
make
podcast.
up.
Aaron said it. I was trying to.
You know, with Nick, it's all about these magic bullets. I've got this magic bullet that's going to get me out of all this shit.
Like the magic bullet that gets him out of reality that he unfortunately left in Aaron's couch. Sean to Sarcasm with a 2 says, "Your coverage is hilarious. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome."
It was the Franks hearing, and then it was the interlocutory appeal, and it was this, and it was that. It was all this other stuff.
Groggy means come in New Zealand? I've never heard this. Is this a recent thing? I lived in New Zealand, and I never remember hearing someone saying groggy meaning come in New Zealand. We always said spoof or spunk. That's the only thing I remember. Maybe I'm just too old, like Aaron Emotep over here. I don't know.
Now it's, I know how I can, and again, none of this stuff is, I know how I can help people. I know how I can, steer people clear of drugs and everything else. His whole thing was, I know how I can drink. I know how I can get access to alcohol. I'll offer this. I'll go to schools. I'll be a counselor.
Well, this is what an addict would do. So it kind of tracks. An addict will make any concession to keep one more drink, one more day, not having to face reality. Just kick down the can one more day. Maybe that next day will last forever. Who knows?
I'll change my whole YouTube gimmick from the last time you saw me. I was to now the, hey kids, take it from me. Drugs are a no-no. Take a shot. I mean,
yeah, I can't understand what he was trying to think would work here, if it is indeed true, which I have my doubts on. Maybe this is some crazy story he told someone else. I don't know. But this sounds like an insane idea. Is it the last cope? The last sip of liquid copium from the barrel? Just trying to get away? Who can say?
I'd be insulted if I were the state of Minnesota to think that would work.
Yeah,
so that apparently got nixed. That idea they did not think was a good one. Outside of that, my inside source has very little knowledge of what the deal could be other than kind of the time frame of probation, and that the probation is going to include both drugs and alcohol. That's
basically a death sentence. Like, some people say that Nick deserves jail or deserves the worst, toe first into the chipper. I don't think so. I think that Nick being forced to live the life that he pretended is actually the funniest and most deserves to go back to the trad life. No April, no swinging, none of the degeneracy, but also he's lost his alcohol privileges. I think that that's actually quite appropriate. And 2 to 3 years of government testing. You know what? Speaking of government testing, that reminded me of something that I forgot to mention. It was a very clever catch by one of the farmers. And as you remember, Nick was talking about how the drug test for his child that tested positive, that these tests are 1 in 5. He said 1 in 5 children is testing positive. These tests are so terrible, they're so inaccurate that they're basically just science. Interesting. Now, if 1 in 5 tests is a false positive, which very coincidentally seems to be the same number of children he has, 1 in 5. Oh well, 1 in 5 kids test positive, and 1 in 5 of my kids test positive. That's, imagine the odds, right? That's interesting. But wait a second. If these tests are so inaccurate, if these tests are so terrible, then how many of Nick's tests were false positives? Like, how does that work? Because Nick had to do daily, wasn't he doing daily testing? So somebody did some math saying that just some math on Nick's 30% failure rate on drug tests. Nick says he took 4 to 5 tests over 24 weeks. That's about 100 tests without a false positive. He would have scream to high heaven if he had a false positive as evidence. His claim means that there's a 70% chance that any individual test is negative. The probability that Nick manages 100 negative tests is 0.7 times 100, or 1 to the power of 100 actually, or 1 in a number that's got it's like a trillion number. I'll post it in the chat. This is the odds of someone that does better math than me. Okay, them's the odds, because I have no idea. What is that? Let's see. That's like a trillion or some shit. All right, this is the odds. This is the odds. If what Nick says about testing is accurate. To put that in perspective, the odds of winning the Mega Millions or Powerball is about 1 in 300 million.